Hello friends, what's up? So let us continue our discussion on measuring the economy. This is the seventh lesson of this particular topic. Till now we have already seen how GDP is measured of the economy. Now we'll look at other aspects of the economy, and today we are going to start measuring the price change in the economy. Okay, so this is also another important aspect of the economy. So we have to look at not just the GDP number, not just our income, but also what are the price changes in the economy. Okay, and price change is nothing but the inflation, right? So changes in price over a period of time is called inflation. Okay, changes in price over time is known as inflation. So we are basically going to see inflation in this particular video. So first of all, let us understand what is the meaning of inflation. So as I already told you, inflation is a general rise in price level of an economy over a period of time. Okay, so it is a general rise in price level. So general rise meaning the prices of almost all the goods and services in the economy is increasing. Okay, that is known as a general rise. It's not just that only one or two commodities or services are getting costly, but general rise means the cost of each and everything is increasing. Like for example, your transportation cost is increasing, the money that you give for haircut is increasing over a period of time, right? So that is known as inflation. Now because of inflation, because of the price rise, the purchasing power of money reduces. See, the simple meaning of this is that if with rupees 100, previously you could say purchase two dosas. Today with rupees 100 you can purchase only one dosa. Okay, so previously one dosa cost you 50 rupees, but now one dosa will cost you 100 rupees. So the purchasing power of money has reduced. Previously the purchasing power of 100 rupees was two dosas if you look in terms of dosas, but today the purchasing power of 100 rupee is only one dosa. So that is known as purchasing power. Purchasing power is basically the amount of goods and services the money can buy, per unit of money can buy. So here we are taking example of dosa, but you can take example of anything. Okay, and this results into loss in real value in the medium of exchange. Medium of exchange is basically our currency, our rupee. Okay, and unit of account. So previously you used to see that even at the salary of say 20,000 rupees, okay, a family used to live a very good life, enjoy a very good life. But today with measly 20,000 rupees, we will consider this to be a very less salary, because maybe you are not able to live a very decent life with this amount. You need more money because the real value of rupee has now reduced. So that is how the inflation works. Inflation results into loss in the real value of rupee, real value of currency, and also the unit of account. Unit of account and medium of exchange is basically currency. Now let us understand the different types of inflation. Okay, so we will study that, but before that let me first introduce you to a very basic concept, which is known as the demand supply in the market. So basically please focus your attention on this part. So basically you will see that here on the y-axis I have the prices, P denotes the price, and on x-axis we have the quantity. Okay, now this is the demand curve. So demand curve is the blue line, this is the demand curve, and the red line is the supply curve here. So demand curve is downward sloping because as per the law of demand, as the price of the commodity decreases, the quantity demanded increases. That is a general law of demand. And for the supply, it is that as the price of the commodity increases, the quantity supplied increases. So that's why it is upward sloping curve, and this is a downward sloping curve. This is a typical demand supply diagram. Okay, now wherever the demand and supply cut each other, that is called as market equilibrium. Okay, this point is known as market equilibrium point, and here demand will be equal to supply, and this will be the quantity of goods that will be supplied at this point, and this will be the price level that will exist in the market. So these are known as equilibrium prices and equilibrium quantities. Okay, so this is a simple demand supply diagram of economics. Now let us understand the different types of inflation using this diagram. So the first type of inflation is known as a demand pull inflation. See, the name itself suggests you it is a demand pull inflation. So the demand is increasing and that is pulling the inflation in the economy. Logically also, even if you consider it, say for example, if your iPhone cost you say rupees 1 lakh, okay, and there are about 1000 iPhones available in the market, but if the demand for, so this is basically the supply of iPhone, 1000 iPhone, but if the demand for iPhone becomes 2000, so naturally this price will increase in the market. This is a very logical and very common sense. So this is such a inflation, such a price rise is known as demand pull inflation. So we will see this here in the diagram also. What happens, see, here is the price, here is the quantity, this is supply, and this is demand. So demand pull meaning the demand is increasing. So this demand curve is shifting to the right. So demand is increasing. So initially demand was D1, now the demand becomes D2. So you see the equilibrium point has shifted. This was the initial equilibrium point. Now the equilibrium point is this. Okay. So you see here that the price level initially was P1. Now the price level has become P2. So the price has increased and the quantity supply has also increased from Q1 to Q2. So such a inflation is known as demand pull inflation. The increase in price because of increase in demand is known as demand pull inflation. So it is due to aggregate demand increase and it is caused due to, now why does the demand increase in the market? Okay, market में demand increase क्यों होगा? Because of increase in supply of money. Now people have more money in their hand. So whenever the salaries increase, you have more money with you, you have more supply of money, right? If the RBI reduces the interest rates, then the supply of money increases in the economy. Okay, so people want to spend more, they want to take more loans. So the demand in the economy will increase. Or there is a sudden increase in exports. Now whatever is produced in our domestic economy, it also gets exported to other countries. If there is a sudden increase in the demand for our exports, for example sugar, so for example in USA, suddenly in their domestic economy the sugar production has reduced, so now they are demanding sugar from India. So our sugar exports will increase. Now if our sugar exports will increase, then naturally the demand for our sugar is increasing and the price level of sugar in our market will also increase. Then asset inflation meaning the rise in price of assets. Okay, so if you hold some assets, for example if you have land, if you have any house, and if you hold any stock or any equity, any shares, and if those asset prices are increasing, so what you feel the rich, okay, you feel rich, basically you feel that you have become rich and you will spend more. So such a effect is known as income effect. Okay, that also leads to increase in demand. Then increase in government spending, as we had seen in the national income accounting, GDP is equal to consumption plus investment plus G plus NX. So consumption increases, exports can increase, government expenditure can also lead to increase in demand, right? Increase in expenditure. So government spending also leads to demand pull inflation because it increases the demand in the economy. For example, government is building highways, a very simple example. So highways will demand sand, it will demand cement, it will demand iron and steel, right? So different commodities will be demanded in the economy. So naturally the demand of these commodities has increased, so the prices will increase. This is a very simple example. And we have already seen government can increase its spending by either increasing the tax revenues, okay, tax collection can increase, or it can borrow from RBI, or it can borrow from the market by issuing the bonds. This we are going to see in the financial market lesson series, how government actually gets its financing. So borrowing from RBI basically means that RBI will print a new money and it will give it to the government. So this is known as printing of money, okay, and it is the most inflationary in the economy. Because see, other sources of government funding, for example if taxes are increasing, so somewhere the government is getting more revenue but the common people are having less money with them. So that gets balanced here, that gets compensated. So disposable income, okay, of people, personal disposable income decreases if the tax increases. So basically what is happening, that if the tax is increasing, money with the people is decreasing. So this is in a way it is compensating each other, kind of. Then again if the government is borrowing from the market, by issuing bonds, then money available for private investments will reduce in the market, because because if government demands more money from the banks, from the common people, then money available for private sector will be less, okay, and thereby the demand of private sector will go down. So this will compensate each other. But when it is by printing money, when the government is printing money by the RBI, it is not affecting any other economic agent. So common people are not getting affected because of this, and that is why the demand is increasing from both sides. So demand is increasing because of the government spending also, and demand is increasing because of the private spending also. So that's why it is considered to be most inflationary. Then low unemployment rate, okay, so there is a lot of employment in the economy, very few people are unemployed, that also leads to increase in demand. And depreciation of rupee, naturally, if rupee depreciates, so the demand for our local goods increases, because see, if the rupee will depreciate, meaning what, the say for example dollar becomes stronger, so now the American people can purchase more Indian goods with the less dollars, right? Because now the dollar's value has increased and rupee's value has decreased. So in this way, exports will increase. Our exports will increase because of depreciation, and again this results into increase in our aggregate demand in the economy, and all these factors lead to demand pull inflation. Okay, just keep this in mind. Now let us discuss the next kind of inflation, which is known as cost push inflation. So this is a supply side inflation basically. Before this we have studied the demand pull inflation. Now we will see the supply side inflation, and this is just because of the cost of production is increasing. Now it has become very costly for producers to produce. Now what could be the reason? Increase in input prices, right? So if there is a factory, if it is having some inputs, say for example cloth factory, input is cotton and it is manufacturing cloth. So if the cotton price increases, then the cost of production also increases, the cloth will become costlier. So this is known as increase in input prices. Then hoarding, many of the suppliers, they will hoard goods. Hoard goods means they will hide goods in the market, they will not supply it. So this is known as artificial shortage, okay, artificial scarcity in the market. For example, there are certain shopkeepers, certain people, certain factories, they know that the demand for sugar is going to increase. So they will hoard sugar. Hoard sugar means they will hide sugar from the market. They will show that there is no supply of sugar, then automatically the price will increase. So they create a kind of artificial scarcity in the market. Then defective supply chains, if the supply chains are not good, for example there is no proper logistics, there is no proper connections, then the cost of transportation, cost of storage, all that increases, and again that leads to increase in price level. Then increase in indirect taxes, again if the government increases the excise duties, GST, so naturally the price of the good will go up. Okay, so again it is a kind of supply side inflation. Depreciation of currency. Now see, depreciation of currency is also a demand side, but also from the supply side also it is a factor which contributes to inflation. How? Now if the rupee depreciates, then the foreign loans become very costly, okay, because the foreign loans are denominated in dollar terms, okay, denominated in dollar terms. Now for example, if some company wants to take a loan of $10,000, okay, just assume this, that it wants to take a loan of $10,000, and the dollar to rupee exchange rate was 70 rupees per dollar, okay, 70 rupees per dollar. So what is the rupee value of this? So rupee value of this will be 70 multiplied by 10,000, right, which is equal to $7 lakh, 7 lakh rupees, correct? So 7 lakh rupees he had to pay for $10,000. Now if the rupee depreciates and the dollar value of rupee, it becomes say 75 rupees per dollar, 75 rupees per dollar. Now in order to obtain the same 10,000 loan, he will have to pay 7,50,000 rupees, right? So it has become costly for him to take foreign loans. So depreciation of currency results into costlier foreign loans, and these foreign loans are known as external commercial borrowings basically. This again we will see in the following lessons. Also some of the raw materials are imported. So for example, if there is a car manufacturing company, it wants to purchase some of its component from abroad, let's say from China or USA or other countries, then if the currency depreciates, then raw material value will also increase, okay, in rupee terms. So therefore the supply side inflation will occur. Then crude oil prices, again see, everything depends on oil. industry runs on oil, transportation runs on oil. So if the oil prices increases, petrol, diesel prices increases, then again it results into price rise. Erratic monsoon, if the monsoon does not come on time, or the monsoon is not regular, then the farmers will suffer. Okay, farmers will suffer, meaning there will be no supply to the manufacturing industry. Okay, inputs will not be there, and therefore that is how the price rise will increase, the price will rise. Interest rates increase by RBI. If the RBI increases the interest rates, if the RBI hikes the interest rate, it means that taking loans becomes costlier. Loans will it will be very expensive to take loans, because the interest rates will increase, because the RBI has increased the interest rates, so the market interest rates will also increase, and therefore taking loans will become costly and doing business will become costly. So again, this is a supply side factor. And there is a built-in inflation also. For example, high demand of wages. So for example, there are a lot of unions, okay, and lot of labor unions. So if they demand high wages but the factory cannot sustain it, so again it will result into supply side inflation, increase in price rise. If if the workers are demanding more wages, the companies will have to increase their price level of the commodities or goods that they are producing, and automatically the general price level in the economy will increase. So these are the two types of inflation I wanted to discuss with you. Now let us think a little bit about which one is worse. Okay, इसमें से कौन सा ज़्यादा खराब है? Okay, demand pull inflation or supply side inflation. Okay, which one is bad? So you can argue on both sides, but it makes a very convincing case that the cost push inflation, that is the supply side inflation, is worse. It is bad than the demand pull inflation. Why? Because in order to contain the supply side inflation, there are very less policy tools to support. Okay, now you can see here, with monsoon what you can do, government cannot do with anything. Okay, currency depreciation, it is not much in our hand, because this also depends on a lot of foreign factors. What is happening in USA, what is happening in Russia Ukraine war, so many different things. Crude oil prices are also not in our control. Then supply chain, again it is infrastructural issues, so it cannot be solved very quickly. So there are a lot of things. So input prices also, it depends. It's not completely policy which can control input prices. Then foreign loans, raw material from foreigners, all these things are not much in government control. So there are very less policy tools to support this kind of inflation. Also, national income reduces, actual production falls, economy produces below its full employment level. Now, what is the meaning of this? I'll explain to you. See, in supply side inflation, what is happening? So basically, see, this is the supply, this is the demand. So as I have told you, in supply side inflation, the cost of production increases. So basically, this supply curve shifts upwards. Shifts upwards meaning for the same quantity, now it is demanding more prices. Okay. See, initially this was the equilibrium price P1 Q1. Now the supply side has shifted from S1 to S2. Supply curve has shifted from S1 to S2. So now you see, for the same quantity on the old curve, now on the new curve the price has increased. Initially this was the price, now this is the price, and it is true for almost every quantity. Okay, it is true for every quantity. So now because of this, what is happening, since the supply curve has moved upside, because of shift of supply side curve upside, you see that the equilibrium point has shifted here. Initially the equilibrium point was here, now it has shifted here. So you see that now this is the equilibrium quantity, this is the equilibrium price P2. So the equilibrium price has increased from P1 to P2, but equilibrium quantity has decreased from Q1 to Q2, and actually the economy is now producing less than its full employment. If Q1 was the full employment, full capacity level of production, now the production in the economy has reduced. Production in the economy has actually reduced. So this is not good for the economy. This is also a kind of recession, because we are not producing enough. This is a kind of recession in the economy. Now, what are the different remedies to control inflation? So one of the remedies is monetary policy, increase in policy rates. If the interest rates increases, the money supply will decrease. We have already seen this. Then fiscal policy. With fiscal policy, government can increase taxes, thereby the personal disposable income of people will decrease. Okay, lower spending, government can itself spend low, and lower borrowings, government should not borrow more from RBI. Okay, thereby increasing inflation. Then there are other measures also, like control exports. Most of the times government has to control exports by putting export duties, export duties. For example, if the sugar, same sugar example we'll take, if the sugar prices are increasing in the domestic economy, government will ban exports, or government will put some quota on sugar exports, or it will put some duties, some tax on exports, so that the exports will fall. Improve logistics, again to contain the supply side factors, to improve the supply chains, right? Then PDS, it is a public distribution system of food. So for poor people, if the food prices should not increase, therefore government has a PDS system, public distribution system, which is also known as the rationing system, okay, by which we give the food at a very affordable prices to the people. And then climate resilient crops, because of erratic monsoon and extreme heat wave and all those things, we need to develop in science and technology also, and adopt such climate resilient crops which can sustain such erratic monsoon, etc. Now, what are the different measures of inflation? So this we will discuss in detail. Here we'll just look at the names. So one is wholesale price index, WPI, then consumer price index, CPI, producer price index, PPI, commodity price index, core price index, okay, GDP deflator, this we have already seen. GDP deflator is nominal GDP. We have already seen in the previous video, nominal GDP divided by real GDP. Okay, so you have to remember this, and we will learn this in detail in the later videos. And also now let us look at some of the important terms related to inflation. What are some of the terms related to inflation? So inflation, as we know, it is a general price rise, okay, general price rise in the economy. Disinflation, meaning that the reduction of inflation rate. So for example, if the inflation rate was 7%, now the inflation is there, but the rate has reduced to 4%. So inflation rate has reduced to 4%, then this is known as disinflation. Deflation means negative inflation. So again, initially the inflation was 7%, now it has become minus 1%. So basically minus 1% inflation means that the price levels are actually falling now. The price levels are actually falling. Could you understand the difference between disinflation and deflation? In disinflation, the inflation is still positive, but the rate has reduced, okay? Rate has decreased. Initially it was 7%, now it is 4%. But in deflation, it has become negative. So from 7%, it has become minus 1%, minus 2%, minus 3%, like that. Reflation meaning inflation when economy recovers from a recession. So for example, if the economy was in recession, now it is trying to recover, so there is some inflation in the economy, okay, because immediately the supply side cannot catch up, and therefore some inflation occurs in the economy, and such a inflation is known as reflation. Then hyperinflation, the name itself says extremely high inflation rate, okay, inflation rate like 70% or 100% inflation rate per year. So these have not occurred in our country, but it has occurred in some of the countries outside. So hyperinflation is extremely high inflation rate. Stagflation, divide this term. Stagflation means stagnancy, okay, stagnation plus inflation. So it is inflation plus stagnation. Stagnation means basically recession. So as we had seen, okay, it is because of the supply side factor. If the supply curve shifts upwards, okay, so here we see that the quantity also decreases, so there is a recession also, and there is a inflation also. So stagflation occurs because of the supply side constraints, supply side factors. Then there is another term called misery index. Misery index is basically inflation rate plus unemployment rate. So with misery index, we actually see how miserable our condition is. See, because both the things are miserable. Inflation is also miserable, unemployment is also miserable. So if we look at both the rates and both the rates are increasing, then we arrive at a misery index. मतलब यहाँ पे गरीबी भी है, ओके, गरीबी भी है, बेरोजगारी भी है, और महंगाई भी है. गरीबी प्लस बेरोजगारी, ओके, बेरोजगारी प्लस महंगाई. So that is why it is known as misery index. Then core inflation basically means the inflation of items of which the prices are non-volatile. Non-volatile means the prices don't fluctuate much, okay, prices don't fluctuate in these commodities much. right? And the prices which are non-volatile, so basically we have to exclude fruits, vegetables, oil. So सबसे ज़्यादा किसके fluctuate होते हैं price? Fruits के, vegetables के, oil के. So if we subtract the oil and food component, okay, oil and food component from the main inflation, then we will get the core inflation. Headline inflation is all commodities are covered, okay, everything is covered in headline inflation. In core inflation we exclude the food and oil, okay, we exclude the food and oil component because the prices are volatile of food and oil. So today potato is 20 rupees kg, tomorrow it can become 40 rupees kg, so directly 100% jump in the prices. So the inflation here is very volatile, okay. So we have to consider in core inflation only the non volatile components. And lastly, structural inflation. Structural inflation is due to the structural bottlenecks in the economy. For example, infrastructure. There is no proper highways, there is no proper godowns, no proper warehouses. So they are known as structural inflation due to infrastructural gaps. So these are some of the important terminologies that you should remember, you should keep in mind. Now from the later video, we'll actually look at these indices, these indexes, this CPI, WPI, PPI, etc. And we'll learn them in more detail. Thank you.